Welcome everyone, this is Lyman with IT Unity. First of all, I'd like to welcome everyone to today's webisode on Office 365 Pulse with Jennifer Ann Mason. As a SharePoint Server MVP, Jennifer has spent the last several years consulting others on best practices for implementing business solutions using SharePoint technologies. She is passionate about SharePoint and loves using out-of-the-box features to bring immediate ROI to her clients. She has worked with a range of companies, leading teams responsible for design, implementation, and maintenance of SharePoint environments. When she isn't riding the slide at her new company, Rackspace Hosting, Jennifer focuses on strategy, planning, governance, and sharing her knowledge with the SharePoint community. After a recent move to the Lone Star State from Ohio, where she was the founding member of the Columbus, Ohio SharePoint Users Group, Jennifer is learning how to be a true Texan, cowboy boots and all. Take it away, Jen.
Hey everybody, it is so good to have you guys join us. We'll go ahead and get our webcams started here and get today's session shared. We have got the awesome Kathy Dew hosting with us today. So I have known Kathy for quite a few years, actually. We've done a lot together in the SharePoint community. She is one of my favorite SharePoint MVPs. I love getting to work with Kathy, spend time with Kathy. So she's done a lot in the area of branding. If you've done anything with SharePoint branding, you have most likely heard of Kathy. Follow her blogs. She's got great insight in that, but she is also a tremendous project planner, helping businesses get the most out of SharePoint. So she works for Planet Technologies, and she agreed to be my guest today on the Pulse. So super excited to have Kathy join us. So welcome, Kathy.
Thank you for having me, Jennifer.
Is there anything you want to add about the, I didn't give a nice, fun, fancy introduction like Lyman does. I need to work on that, work on my radio voice, and read out these fun, fancy intros for everybody. I'm just like, this is so-and-so, and I love them. So that's kind of the intro you get when you hang out with me.
I thought it was perfect. I'm gonna find it interesting and see if I work at home, so you guys may get to have the fun experience. I have two cats, so one of them may make a guest appearance. So I'll be curious to see if Jennifer tries to introduce them in the same fun way.
It's Rascal, right? Rascal's the one that's going to join us?
Rascal's the one that will most likely join us. He is indeed a rascal.
Yeah, he's a fun one. He'd be an interesting one to meet in person. So see, most cats don't like me, so it would be interesting to see what
he's a dog in cat's clothing, so he'd be fine.
Yeah, he'd probably like me. Well, I am sure that the world is very interested to learn about our pets. I'd love to get my dogs in here, but
Let's get into it.
Yep. want to learn a little bit more about Office 365 and SharePoint. So we will jump back into the heart of things. So this is the Pulse Show. Thank you guys, everyone, for joining us for episode 2. Episode 1 was last week. It was awesome. We got some really good feedback. Got some ideas on how to maybe move things along quicker. And then we also got a lot of feedback that people were hoping for demos. So we are constantly looking for ways to change up our format and do the things that are most interesting for everybody. So we the format we're probably going to follow is going through updates and changes that roll out. And then if we happen to have a slow week, we'll probably start to demo some content. So Kathy and I talked last week, and we're like, hey, let's demo this if nothing rolls out. And then between the day we had that conversation, I mean, we had a conversation, Kathy, and we're like, wow, not much has really happened. I think we're going to have time to do some demos on the show. And then I think 50 things rolled out since then, and it was kind of like, oh, we got to add this to the show, and we got to add this to the show. So
I think that was Monday morning we had that conversation, and then everything rolled out this week. So they announced lots since then.
Crazy times to be with Office 365. So we can kind of jump into the heart of the show. So I always like to kind of do the message center updates first, because I think that's where the hidden gems get put. Things that you might not see a blog post about because, maybe they don't want to admit it. Or they don't really want you to catch what's going on, but there's some pretty legitimate stuff that comes into the Message Center. So the one that we have going on this week is that if you're using the Windows client for Skype and you try to do a video call with someone in Link, it is disabled right now. So that's kind of interesting that they're having some Skype link client issues. So I haven't personally run into that one too much. I don't know, Kathy, have you run into that one?
I ran into it, honestly, about a month ago, and when you shared the Sway with me, yesterday, I went back and dug into it again and tried to look a little bit deeper and found out this was something that's been reported for a couple of months now, and they're addressing it. They finally reproduced it enough to find the root cause. So I'm going to be curious to see how long it takes for them to get them pushed out, but I'm sure they'll get that all cleared up and ready to go. But it was just one of those, it would just fail.
I found it was interesting that they disabled it. It's kind of like, all right, we know we have a bug. We know something isn't working. So instead of letting the bug continue, we are going to disable it. I actually think that's one of the great things about, software as a service and being able to do this, because it's something that they can kind of disable on their end and take care of for us. Versus, back in the day, it'd be like, oh, here's a bug, here's your hotfix, you have to fix it, or go through all of these steps to disable it. So Dan in the audience asked, maybe this has something to do with the Skype for Business client, and ask about the timing of that. I don't really know the timing about that, but when we start talking about Ignite, if you go look at the Ignite session schedule, there is just a heck of a lot of stuff about Skype for Business. So I'm assuming that we may get the timeline between now and Ignite, but if we don't get it between then, I have a feeling we are all going to leave Ignite. Skype for Business, or whatever it's going to be called, might just be like the new drinking game where, every time we hear it, we have to, take a sip of our favorite beverage. But, that kind of happens.
Yeah, this disable reminded me of the Yammer single sign-on, before, that they tried to push out and then found the bug and then held off until they got it fixed and fully tested. So it's a very similar thing as reminiscent of that for me. So it's good to see them being proactive on disabling something that they know is broken.
Yeah. I love it. So I think it's good good stuff that they put it in the message center. We will definitely, check back in. We have a show on Monday, and so we'll check back on Monday and see if there's any other updates to the message center about what's going on. So it was kind of neat to see, maybe some people have run into it. If anybody in our audience has run up to it, maybe say something in the chat window or something like that. But kind of interesting stuff. So now we get to jump to the next topic. This one is fun because it feels like, just yesterday, well, maybe last week, we were talking about the public site fiasco of public sites in SharePoint are no longer going to be supported. So what are we to do? And the answer last week was, well, wait until the end of January to see what Microsoft has to say. I have to be 100% honest. I didn't think they were going to have an answer by the end of January, because, it's kind of getting to the end of January by like Monday, and I'm like, maybe they're not going to say anything. But they did. They came out, they updated their KB article, and they let us know that there are really two approaches now for working with a public site in Office 365. One is GoDaddy, and one is Wix. These are really interesting solutions to me because they are partner solutions, not integrated solutions. And so what that means is that we have to have a separate account and different things. And before we jump into this too much, Lyman, if you want to put out the first poll for us, it says, how do you feel about the direction? So we would love to hear from the people in the audience. What do they feel about this direction? Kathy, what do you think about this?
I'm kind of on the fence about this. I have to be honest. I do a lot as a UX person. I do a lot of sites. I've played around with a lot of third parties and all of that. And I will say one thing that surprised me about this, and I can see it in the chat room here as well. People are surprised about it as well. Is that the option that's not listed, kind of the big glaring one out there, is Azure. And, the fact that it's still a separate solution. I would have to have a different login and a separate subscription. But I'm going to have that same thing if I'm using Wix or GoDaddy. And so to me, it was very surprising that it came out and that was not an option listed. Because I can say for sure, in fact, I did it yesterday, you can throw up a WordPress site in Azure just as quickly as you can on GoDaddy. And so it was a little surprising to me that they left it out. I think that there's a little bit more of the Azure stuff, that they're afraid is more custom developed. Having a custom developed Azure site is more easy, is a harder thing for people to come across, as opposed to GoDaddy that's very, you don't have to have any IT experience. I go in, I click, it creates it. I don't have to do really any configuration, whereas in Azure you do. And so I think that's a little bit more of it. It's a little bit more of that WYSIWYG experience in these two third-party offers. But I was surprised, and I am still surprised, that after some of the tweets and conversations and Yammer and so forth that have happened this week, that they actually haven't addressed the glaring Azure omission.
Yeah, I think it's interesting. To me, it's all about, I love the no syntax and no semicolon world. That's kind of where I live. The more we can do without syntax and semicolons, which actually isn't true. The more I can get someone else to write syntax and semicolons for me so that I can do what I want, the better. I love developers. Hey, I married one. I love developers. I just, I'm not going to be one. In terms of the WYSIWYG editing, I think that the experience is really interesting. I went and I dug through yesterday. You can get a site as cheap as $1 a month all the way up to $10.99 a month and kind of everywhere in between. Most places seem to me that if you were going to get the middle of the line, so not the crazy website, but not the just I'm paying $1 for this website, you're going to end up in the $6 or $7 range. GoDaddy looked interesting to me, but at the same time, Wix looked a little bit more interesting to me from a design perspective, because I had a lot of, ooh, that template is pretty, and okay, that's pretty neat, and let me play with this. And so I tweeted out to the Wix folks and said, hey, do you want to pass an MVP, a free profile trial, so I can go out there and play with these sites and see what they're like. So haven't heard back from them, so I may have to bust out the $6 a month, kind of pay for it and see, but I'm going to keep playing with it for a little bit and see. I'd also say that my favorite article that I have read to date on this, it's just very well written, and it kind of talks about, from the experience of someone using the site, is Todd Baginskis. I hope I'm saying his last name right. He just wrote an article that published to IT Unity last night. And I mean, it's just a great really article that talks through the scenarios and what you should be doing. And so I highly recommend going and doing that. For a company, I think that, a company that's in this, and, in the Pulse, we want to really talk about how does this impact different organizations. You have to make a choice now. Do I want to invest development dollars into a site? Do I have development dollars to invest? Do I have developers to do things for me? And if you do, then I think you have a few more options available than GoDaddy or Wix. You can go to Azure, you can go to Rackspace Hosting. I mean, there's a lot of different places that you can go, but you would have to build out that site. And I know, Kathy, you're even working on some articles to maybe guide somebody through doing the Azure site. So I think that is super great. Very much looking forward to that coming. But if you don't have
that'll come out in mid-February.
Mid-February, awesome. That's pretty soon. But if you don't have those resources, $6 a month, that's a pretty good price. And, maybe you can go after one of these sites, try what they're at. I'm hoping within the next week or so, I'll have a chance to build a site out on both of these platforms, and then I can give some more insight as to which one I think is better.
Yeah, I have some people that I've worked with that have the sites through GoDaddy. I haven't built one through Wix. I'm like you. I hesitated when this announcement came out to go sign up and pay the extra $6 a month. I have so many Office 365 subscriptions. But I would say for me, it's not a disappointment in the platforms that they picked. These platforms that they picked are great suggestions for that small business that doesn't have an IT staff, that doesn't have a marketing team, that needs to be able to easily move over and create a public-facing site. I wish they had given us more options. I wish that they had detailed it out a little bit more and put in like low maintenance and needs custom development as a secondary option, and put in something like Azure in that section. I think they could do that on any of these three. I think that they just should have added that in there. And I think that's my only hesitation on this, is that I feel like they could have given a third, another option and put a little bit more description around what that option, who that option was targeted to.
Yeah. So
because let's be honest, you're going to have to log into a separate platform for any of these.
Yep, definitely. So I see in the group, Dan is kind of putting in the chat room, he says that he's built it on Wix, and it was a great experience. So Dan, thank you for sharing that. And he also said Squarespace is another one that's pretty amazing. So those are definitely things to check out. I think it's just like you said, Kathy, now you have to log into another place anywhere, so it's kind of like the sky is the limit. A little disappointing, but at the same time, I wonder, telemetry, the word that we love, which lets them know what are people actually using. It must have been that only small to medium businesses were using it. Maybe they really wanted that WYSIWYG experience, which I'm not going to lie, like, there was nothing awesome about building a public site on top of Office 365, but the theory that you could and that a small business could do that was really awesome. Like, I'm not looking forward to now having to go, because I keep my own, JenniferAnnMason.com is on Office 365, and now I'm going to have to be moving that. And I don't really look forward to having to do that different, but again, so I don't know. They at least gave us an answer, and they gave us an answer by February, so let's, give Microsoft props for notifying us, that there was an issue, saying something was going to be there. We don't have the answers, but we're going to get you the answers by this date, and they did. So, maybe we can, if we don't like the answer, maybe we can be like, yay for over-communicating, Microsoft. So maybe look at, the silver lining in that cloud.
No, I'm glad they stuck to it and actually gave us the answer. We're not left hanging. It's not the ideal answer, but it's still an answer. And I don't think this is the end of the news either. I think that we will hear more news from them coming out as we move towards Ignite as to how you can migrate existing SharePoint Online sites into one of these platforms. I don't think this is the end of the answer. I think this is just the start of the message.
Yeah, I think so too. So I think that's a really good, I think everything is that way now. It's not the end. It's just, okay, what news are you going to trickle down to me now? And then what's coming next? So it's just kind of, it's just a different world that we live in today. It's kind of awesome, but, it looks like there's a lot of feedback from the group about people that have used either GoDaddy or Wix, so a little bit of mixed feedback. So I really love that the group is chatting and filling out this stuff while we're there and talking. It's awesome to see other people's real life experience. And, other places that you can share this kind of information is definitely in the Office 365 Yammer community. So Kathy and I are both very active there. So people are always writing comments and listening, and I know that Microsoft is listening to the Yammer group. So
they definitely are. And there's a whole public-facing website group.
Did you see that, Kathy? She has got over 1,500 pages on our Office 365 website. I would not be looking forward to doing that either, Suzanne. I'm sorry.
Suzanne, I would just say stay tuned, because I know that there are plans in place that are coming out. I don't know full news of them. Even I haven't heard a lot of it, other than heard that there is guidance coming out for migration. So I don't know what it is. I don't know the answer, and I feel your pain, because I have one myself.
A little bit of the 2 years. Before I did any massive amount of work in anything, I would wait a little bit and let the dust settle and see what happened. And also for a 1,500 site, I would be asking, 1,500 pages, I'd be asking what other people were doing as well, and I would sure shoot and be calling my Microsoft rep and screaming, oh no!
Yeah, I've had a couple that are big, but nowhere near that big.
Yeah.
I maintain several Office 365 public sites myself, so I think I have about 10 that I work with. So I'm certainly not looking forward to moving them all to a different platform myself.
Oh yeah, no kidding, no kidding. Well, the good news is the other piece of information is that they're providing, at least with Wix, they're providing a discount for Office 365 customers. So if you're an existing customer, you can get 50% off the yearly and 30% or 35% off the monthly premium. I have no idea how long that is going to last, nor do I know anything about that, but definitely take advantage of it. Like I said, I wish I could speak to it more. I'm definitely going to be digging in and finding out more and coming up with my own opinion for how businesses can work with it. But, you know, at least it's a start. So I don't know. I was shocked that there is no Azure, but I am certainly glad that Microsoft came through and gave us an answer. So, you know, where I feel Microsoft has grown in the last year or so is they're actually responding to these things pretty quickly and giving us answers, even if they aren't necessarily the answers we want. At least the communication is open. So, all good things there. So, the next one, let's switch to like good, happy news, because this one is a lot more fun, is that yesterday they announced that Power BI is available in preview for free. I thought that this was super interesting. I saw headlines going nuts yesterday about Microsoft rocking the data world and how they were making data available to the masses. I even had a call with one of my managers yesterday, and he was talking to me about one of our customers, how they had all of this data, but they weren't really processing it yet because they didn't necessarily, you know, have the tools or know what they're doing. And my response to him off the cuff was, oh yeah, that's going to be a thing of the past because, oh, by the way, they made Power BI free. And then immediately everyone else in my group started looking at it, and one of the guys was like, but I love Excel. I'm always in Excel. I want this tool. Can I have it now? So I thought this one was super awesome news. I love that they're kind of repeating that freemium option all over the place, right? So we've got Power BI, there's a free version of it, and then there's going to be a paid version of it, and you get a very well-defined set of criteria for each one. So maybe one will work with you and maybe one won't. So I think that is just super, super great news. So Kathy, what do you think about this one? Is it rocking your world?
You know, it's one of those ones where, you know, I've spent a lot of time in previous, you know, working with customers to define dashboards and how do we get some of that information out in front of executives and people and not locked behind, you know, different data sources. And so I think this is going to be one that's going to be really cool. Having this kind of freemium version, yes, is limited. Yes, there's still some questions around what it can and can't do. I think keep an eye out for some of the PI people in our world, Jason Himmelstein, you know, some of those guys, John Patrick White, to put out some articles on some of this and watch for blogs. I'm sure that they will start getting posted in the very near future. Yeah, but definitely. Starting to see some of this BI become more accessible into smaller companies that don't have full BI staff. I know I myself have only played around with Power BI in a very limited amount because it's not something that I personally wanted to invest my money in to pay for that additional piece. So now being able that I can go in and start playing around with it, play around with the Power BI designer and all of that, and really start to see the power of it is going to start helping to provide that value to more and more people. So I'm excited to see this come out.
Yeah, oh, me too. And I just think the possibilities are endless. So if you guys are new to Power BI in the Sway presentation that we have, I have a link to the Office Mechanics overview. FYI, another change this week is Office Garage is now Office Mechanics. So a great place. They kind of rebranded themselves, and they're specializing in quick little 10 or 15 minute clips to get you going. So this is a really good one. I think it's just interesting beyond masses about like Power BI for the masses. And when I look at the land that I live in, which is the land of no syntax and semicolons, this kind of stuff is the future because they're giving me tools that are like Excel, but that are really for data managers, because let's face it, at the end of the day, I know my data very well. I know what I'm trying to do, but I do not know Report Builder. I don't want to learn that skill set. I want to work with and manage my data. So they're making this available to us, and they're making it available in a way that if you're a company that doesn't have just a ton of money to invest in that, Well, now you can have this free version, and you know what? One thing I noticed about the free version was the rate at which data updated. So I believe it's 24 hours for the free version and then hourly for the paid version. And you know what? Like right now, it might not make sense for your data need to be upgraded hourly. But you know what? As you start using these tools, you're going to be able to grow your business and you're going to be able to expand. And then the tools that you're using are going to be able to grow with you. And so I think that's a really great thing. So all of us, Power Excel users and people that know data and people that get into the business, if Power BI hasn't been our thing, I think it now gets to become our thing. And it's a new tool that we are going to be able to develop. And so without syntax and without semicolons, I'm going to be able to deliver powerful data to the people around me where I can use it to make decisions and different things. And I just think it's very interesting.
Yeah, you think about the customers that are using Office 365. Most of them don't have a BI staff. They don't have business analysts that's their job. And so to be able to take Power BI and put it in the hands of sales teams and marketing teams and even executives to connect to different data sources, whether it's the free version or even some of the more paid versions, to take some of that power, put it in their hands is going to be a big change. I mean, I know it doesn't sound like a big one, but I think this is really one of the game changers that they're putting in place.
Definitely. And I just love it. I know Derek commented and said, now we just need an entry-level CRM. And I'm thinking, yeah, no kidding. But I mean, look at what they have with groups. You've got Delve. You've got this Power BI stuff. I can only imagine what's coming with the rest of it. And I don't think that that's really that far off or that far out of scope. I have a feeling we're going to just start to see, with them being able to go to the cloud-first, mobile-first mentality, they're actually able to make these tools available to the masses, which is really interesting and neat to see. Like, we get to start taking advantage of this right now with a business email. We don't have to install a server. We don't have to get permission. We can just start using it, which this is the new Microsoft.
Yeah, I mean, that's the great thing about Office 365 is we really are starting to see the unification of the Microsoft products all coming together. Power BI is kind of some of that SQL stuff. We look at groups coming out and how that works. That's, pulling in Exchange and all of that together. We see the video portals, we see Delve, we see all of this coming together and really becoming a unified platform that's, options of each of their different products pulled together for people to use. I think it's really cool. Yeah. Really neat to see it growing and expanding.
Yeah, definitely. So if you're a company of just a few or you're a large company but you don't necessarily have a lot of developers or different things like that, the entry level has just been removed for you, and now we're going to be able to dive in. So this is definitely on Jen's list of things to conquer this year. So I think it's going to be something that I'm going to be learning a lot about. Like you said, I am so interested in learning from John White, Jason Himmelstein, all of these different people that kind of speak to this BI topic that, we can kind of help translate that into our everyday lives. And so I am super, super excited about this one. So this is, one of the best pieces of news this week. I thought it was just super fun. Yeah. It kind of came out of the blue. I wasn't really expecting it. And then I was like, hey, wait, what's happening?
It was kind of a surprise, yeah.
But
really
a good
cool.
surprise nonetheless.
Really cool.
Awesome. Okay, well, moving on to the next topic. This is also a very interesting one to me, is that the Ignite session have posted. So I have another poll. Lyman, if you want to drag that one over, I would love to get a poll from our audience to see who is planning on attending Ignite. Kathy and I will definitely be there in some form or another. As of now, we don't necessarily have sessions, but we know some wonderful people who do have sessions, like our wonderful leader of IT Unity, Dan Holmes. He'll be out there doing a session, and there's going to be, other people doing sessions. There's not going to be a lack of amazing sessions, but we are just super excited about it tonight. So, Kathy, tell me a little bit about what you think about Ignite and everything that's going on.
Yeah, I mean, I think with Ignite, it's really kind of the new, much like Office 365, everything's unified, it's coming out, we're starting to learn more about it. I know that they've said that the session list that's been posted is really only about half of the session. So if you're not seeing something that you were really, truly, thrilled about yet, keep posted. They're not done yet. They're not done letting us know what's coming, but just seeing what's out there and seeing what they've already started talking about, seeing the lineup of some of the speakers, knowing how much Microsoft is putting into it, it's really starting to make Ignite, kind of exciting for me anyhow. I mean, I know I was pretty skeptical when they first announced it, as I know some people were, but I'm curious to see where they keep going with this.
Yeah. Well, I remember the SharePoint conferences, back in the day when they were in Redmond, and that wasn't even the first one, but that one was still pretty small. And then we went to Vegas, and we kind of took over Vegas, and then we were in Anaheim, and then we were back in Vegas. And so it's a little different for me, being that, so I'm not going to lie, the Ignite catalog comes out, what are the first things I go and do? I go and search for things like workflows, and how many people searched for forms right when it came out, because we got the death of forms at the last SharePoint conference, so I was hoping to get the future of forms, but there's nothing out there for that. So I was a little bit bummed. But then I started to look at it, and my first response was, well, wait a second, there's nothing here for, the land of no syntax and semicolons. And then I started looking through it and reading through more of the sessions, and I kind of went from, skeptical to extremely excited about it. And what excites me about it in Ignite is I think that when we were at a conference that was just LINQ, just Exchange, or just SharePoint, we kind of tended to gravitate towards features that were just for that. But where we're at right now with Office 365 is this concept of the suite movement and experiences across all of the suites. And so Groups is a tremendous example of that because it's email, it's OneDrive, it's also kind of like TeamSite, it's kind of like organization like that. So there is just crazy stuff that's going on across a suite. And so very interesting stuff to me. And so I am excited to go in and see maybe my recommendation is to take off the glasses that we've been wearing for a long time, totally step out of how we've done things forever and into where is the future going. And so I think it's a little bit of a different conference. I think that, our opportunity at the Microsoft conference is to hear Microsoft's vision. It's not always to learn how do I do X, Y, and Z with the tool, but it's more about learning where they're going, seeing how their customers are utilizing the tool, and kind of setting out a vision. When I want to get into the nitty-gritty of here's how I build X, Y, and Z and stuff like that, there really are some other conferences for that. I mean, SP TechCon is one we're going to be at, the Evolutions Conference in London. For those that are overseas, the Evolutions Conference in London, Kathy and I will both be there. It's going to be fantastic. But we'll both be at Ignite. So all of them have a different place that's there. So I'm kind of super excited about it. So Kathy, why don't we start with your top sessions for the ones that you just think are, as of today, I know, disclaimer, this is subject to change as new sessions come out, but as of today, what are your top 3 sessions that you would want people to really pay attention to?
So for me, my love, my passion is still with design. So kind of my top session is they're actually doing one for how to put branding in Office 365. The guidance for that has changed multiple times since Office 365 came out, especially with the new advice of not customizing master pages. And that's just a recommendation. They've since come back out and said, we're not saying you can't do that. So, but I think the group, the Patterns and Practices group, because branding has become more of a developer-focused kind of topic instead of a designer topic, has been doing a good job of trying to keep up with that and keep innovating as to how we do that. So the deep dive into Safe SharePoint branding is really one that I'm interested in. Another one that I'm interested in as well is kind of that, I work in the branding world. It means we're customizing a lot of things. We're doing custom navigation, custom web parts, custom solutions, custom site templates, all of these different things. So the next one's the real life decustomization for migration, because I see that happening a lot too. I work with a lot of people moving from SharePoint 2010 into Office 365, and one of the first things we have to do is decustomize solutions and determine what that bare minimum is that they need to move in. And then the last one that I have in there is team sites and files. That's still a big one for me, because with OneDrive coming in and with groups coming in and having files in multiple locations, I really want to kind of hear more about their vision for how team sites and OneDrive and groups and files all work together. And so that's definitely one of those ones that I'm going to stay tuned in and keep trying to hear more about it.
Yeah. That's an interesting one for me too. I actually saw, I don't remember the exact title for it, but it was like the biggest issues to date with deploying OneDrive and different things like that. And I was like, all right, they're going to embrace it. They're going to come and talk about massive changes that are coming and the roadmap that's there. So I am excited.
There were a fair amount of OneDrive sessions, I thought, coming out in the list.
There was what?
A fair amount of OneDrive sessions.
Yeah, and it was interesting, but they weren't hiding from it, so it's interesting. So I'm kind of looking forward to some of those OneDrive ones. I am looking forward to the group stuff too, because it's like, all right, we can have a file, we can have a file there, we can have a file here, we can have a file here. Where should we have a file? So
yeah,
I think some of those things we're going to start to see. Maybe some more answers. I know on one call, like I just think it would be fun to have a working session where we're like, all right, here's my scenario. How could I solve it? What are the, and it's not even pros and cons. It's good, bad, right, or wrong. This is just what it means if you do it that way. There's some of these things, it doesn't matter if you do A or B. It just, how is it going to work for you? It may matter in a year, but right now there's really lots of options.
Yeah, I'm curious to see, along with some of these OneDrive and file sessions, one of the new features that wasn't really in this first round of sessions that were released was Delve. And so I'm curious to see what some of the Delve topics are, because I think that's how we're going to start to span some of these multiple file locations is, with the customizable boards and all of this in Delve and being able to link to things and easily find content through Delve. So I'm really interested to see kind of what comes out around that, because I think that's one of the directions we could go to solve some of these problems.
Yeah, and it was interesting. I haven't seen a ton with Delve in the title, but I have seen a lot with Office Graph in the title.
Yeah.
Which makes me think, it's not super exciting for the no code, no syntax, no semicolon land. Like, that's not super exciting to me, because that means I have to have somebody to do it.
And that's what I was going to say. For those that may not be familiar on the call, Office Graph is the API that Delve is using and utilizing to present that through together. So Office Graph is a developer API that can be used to expose data in different ways. And so it is interesting to see a lot of these more developer-focused sessions around how to use Office Graph, but I am going to be curious, like you, to see kind of where they go with those. And I think some of them will be lower level, that even though it says Office Graph, you don't have to be a developer to understand the concepts and theories that they're putting forth in that.
Oh, 100%. I am all about attending sessions totally out of my wheelhouse, because I know that I don't have to understand the code they're typing. I know I don't have to get the ideas fully of what they're doing, but if I can get the concept and I can embrace what they're trying to do, I can get an idea of the vision, and that will help me in my strategy for what I'm planning to do. So I totally think it's a great opportunity to kind of step out of your wheelhouse and go explore different things. So
what are your top sessions?
Oh, my top sessions. So there's this buzzword that's coming out that is going to be the next buzzword, which I think is funny because this was the buzzword in 2001 when SharePoint was out. And it's this concept of portals and what they're calling next generation portal. So we have already seen the first next generation portal in the video. So Office 365 video that came out that kind of teamed up with Azure Media Services. And so when you look at it, there is this session that's called Intelligent, Ready to Go Next Generation Portals in Office 365. So to me, that screams, hey, there's new stuff. And so I'm super excited to go learn about these. Yeah, sorry, Deb, about the Bow Wow. Someone just came in the house and the dogs just went nuts, so apologies. It happens. It's one of the perks and disadvantages of working from home. But so I'm excited about the Ready to Go Next Gen portal. So if I had to guess, that's probably going to be very interesting for us no-code folks. So something that is ready to go, that's going to help us do things. So super, super excited about that. And then kind of tying into that, another one is the new knowledge management portal in Office 365. This also screams to me, there's something new coming. And so where I'm not getting a lot of stuff in terms of forms and workflows and lists and libraries and doing all of these things, I have a feeling I'm going to get a lot out of, hey, you know what? Office 365 is this new thing, and it's not just SharePoint, and it's not just email, and it's not just Yammer, and now we can use these together to create this experience or create this way of doing things. And so I'm super excited to go and learn, okay, what are these new things? And so when I think of the no-code builder or someone who's just responsible for being in the business and utilizing these things, I am going to be running hard after those sessions. And then some of the others, I put SharePoint Online and OneDrive for business management and control. That's a big one to me because there's a lot of, as I'm dealing with different organizations and different things like that, I know that's one that keeps coming up with where is all of our data, what are the different pieces, how are we doing it, and so those are some of the other topics that interest me. So I am far from being done with my list. In fact, I'm working on another sway right now where I go through why am I attending Ignite. I'm calling it the no-code guide to attending Ignite, and I'm putting in different things and stuff like that. So I'll definitely be sharing that with this group when I finish it. Yep, that's fun. So tell me, yeah, definitely. So from you, is there anything specifically missing from the list that you wish to see? Right. Yep. Right. Yep. Yeah, it's interesting. Yeah, I tried to think of sessions that were missing for me, and what I miss and what I wish was there was more of the actual practical, here is how you actually go and do this. And so I haven't seen the list of pre-cons and post-cons, so maybe there's something there. But seeing, okay, I have all of these tools out of the box. If I was starting on day one, walk me through setting it up. Walk me through creating all of these pieces and configuring them in a way that's structured so that I could actually go home and go do and implement and go after and do those different things. And so I would love to see some more pieces along that. And I know Microsoft always asks us for what we want to see at conferences. So one of these days I'm going to start like a campaign and get like 1 million of my closest friends to go tell Microsoft what I want to see. Not quite sure how that would work, but I'm going to try it. Maybe next year. Maybe for Ignite 16. Um, yeah. Oh, form. Yeah, I don't know. To be talked about later. Okay, well, another thing I just wanted to briefly kind of talk about is what is the value of attending Ignite. And so, one of my things I like to say is the sessions are great, but really the access to Microsoft attending Ignite is awesome. And so there's different like tips and tricks that you can do when you're there. And so if you kind of go hang out, so take Suzanne, for example. If she was there at Ignite and she wanted to get to the bottom of some of this public site stuff, she can do something like go to the office booth that is going to be fully staffed with Microsoft folks, tons of people around. And instead of going and asking questions, she could ask pointed questions like, hey, if I really wanted to talk to somebody about X, who would I go talk to? Or who do you work with that does this? And because Ignite is all about networking. And it's like this intertwined group of things, and as soon as you start talking to one person, they'll kind of connect you with another person, and then you kind of get to the person that you really need to dig into, and then you can have these really great conversations and build out these relationships with both the Microsoft folks and the community folks. And so there's a ton of value beyond the actual Ignite sessions of just being able to go out there and, just network and connect with folks. Right. Team that's been working on Ignite. Oh, awesome. Awesome. I hadn't heard that yet. That is super exciting news. So that'll be very exciting. Very exciting. Yeah, the team that is working on Ignite this year is they're doing a phenomenal job. So they've gone as far as, reaching out to some community folks. Kathy and I weren't there, but some of our extremely close friends in the community were there. where they got to give feedback just based on community stuff. So they are trying so hard to blend these conferences together, but make it an outstanding, out-of-this-world experience. So I am definitely looking forward to it. It's going to be here sooner than we know, which is super crazy. But it's neat to see all the new stuff coming out, and it will constantly be updated with additional sessions and different things along those lines. Yeah. Yeah, and I know, I don't know specifically what's going on, but I know IT Unity will be a great source of content for stuff that comes out in Ignite. So definitely be watching for stuff like that. I guarantee you it's going to be an amazing resource just because of the people that I know are connected with IT Unity. So